Hello, everyone, and welcome to another MakeCode Arcade Advanced stream. We're all back together again, guys. I'm Richard, and I'm also Richard on the MakeCode forum.
I'm Shannon. I'm at Shakao on the MakeCode forum.
I'm Joey at JWonderl on the MakeCode forum.
And I'm Daryl at Darzu on the MakeCode forum.
All right, and today we're going to be continuing a game that we started 2 weeks ago.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I think it was about 2 weeks ago because we took last week off. So this might be a bit of a jarring video to start with if you're tuning into this on YouTube. So make sure that you go back to the video before this where we started this game and kind of laid out all of the initial stuff. Does anyone want to kind of explain what this game does while I'm gonna play it?
Yeah, sure. So we made a resource gathering game. So right now you can see Richard is mining. So you hold down the A button, and when you run into these color tiles, you break them for resources, and then you can hold down the B button to collect resources. And then if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, we have these resource bars. So our Mars rover has some carrying capacity, and once you've filled up that capacity, you won't be able to collect any more resources until you've dropped them off somewhere.
Yep, though those bars aren't working right now. We didn't actually implement them. They just all are full all of the time. And I should say that the resources we've decided on are water, which is the blue stuff down here, rock, which is this red stuff up here, and Daryl or Shannon, do you want to explain what the last resource is?
Algae.
Mention that this is taking place on Mars.
Listen, who knows what's under there?
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely not me.
Okay.
Many possible futures for Mars.
Okay. Well, anyway, when you break these brown blocks, where you get algae, which you can pick up, and the value of that to a rover, who knows? Collecting samples. All right. So I think the first thing we should do is kind of go down to these resource bars and actually make them fill up. And so if you've been on the MakeCode forum lately, you might have seen that Joey released an awesome status bar extension. And we could use that, but we already started before it was released. So we're going to just keep doing it this way. But you should check that out. It's in the on the MakeCode forum. Okay. So let me try and get my bearings because I did not look at this code before we started this stream. But let me just walk through it really quick. This is not going to be a complete overview, but it's just going to be me figuring out what the code does while we're doing it. So we start out by setting the background color to Mars Orange, setting a tile map. We're creating our rover, which we've named Auspicious, and moving it around, attaching a camera. And then we've got these 3 arrays that kind of represent our resources. So these are the tiles for each of the resources, water, stone, and algae. And then we have the sprites that they create under resource drops. So the water, the rock, and the algae. We also have this empty array, the inventory, which is how much we have of each resource. And we're initializing that all to 0, and we're creating a resource bar for each of them. And this resource bar right now is just displaying a bar, but it's going to show how much of our limited carrying capacity is filled up. So we also have this on sprite of kind player hits wall. So all of these resource tiles in our tile map are walls. And when the player hits them, if the A button is pressed, then we go in all of the different directions around the player and we break the tiles. And when we break a tile, we first check to see if it's a wall. We then go through our array of resource tiles and figure out the index. So for water, it would be 0. For red, it would be 1. For algae, it would be 2. And then we spawn a sprite with the same index in this other array. So if we were to break one of these red tiles, the index would be 1, and we would get the sprite with 1, and we created there. And we are also storing that resource index onto the sprite so that in this overlaps event, we can change the amount we have in the inventory. So if the B button is pressed, we're destroying the resource. We're changing the inventory amount for the resource index that we hit. And then we are changing the value in the array. All right, did I miss anything? Does that sound good to everyone? All right, cool. So let's start with these resource bars and kind of just go over how we're going to make this work. So we are creating a sprite with an empty image that's width 20, height 2, and we gave it the kind HUD. We're setting it to relative to camera so that it's sticky on the bottom here. And we're also setting ghost so that it doesn't interact with the tile map. If we don't set it to ghost and we were to say it were to move to somewhere where there is a tile that is a wall, it might cause some weird glitches.
I think we turn ghost on automatically with relative to camera, actually.
Maybe.
To account for that one, but either way.
Okay. Then we're filling the image with the color. And for the color, we're just getting a random pixel from the resource tile, the top left one. And we're using that for the color of the health bar. And then we're setting the position. Okay, this is great. So we've got our tiles showing up here, but we want to actually make it so that we are only allowed to carry a certain amount of each item. So I'm going to ask you guys real quick, do we want to have the same limit for all items, or do we want to have it different depending on the resource?
Same for all sounds the simplest for now.
Okay, let's start with that, and then we can decide if we have some more complicated things we want to do in the future. Maybe we can make it per resource. So I'm going to store this in a variable. So let me create a variable. And we're going to call this max number of resource. Yes, singular. And for now, I'm just going to set it to, let's say, 10. And we can tune this later. And it doesn't really matter where I set this in the onStart, but I'm setting it up here just to make sure it's defined. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is I want to change our pickup logic so that we can't pick up any more items once we've gotten past the limit. So I talked about it before, but we've got this on overlaps event. And I think what we want to do is we say if the B button is pressed, we call change amount in inventory by other sprite resource index as number. So I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to create a variable called found resource index. We'll set this right here. And I'm going to create a get for that block. Shannon, why is there no get for this one?
I think you right-clicked on the wrong thing.
Oh, did I?
You're on the drop-down.
Oh,
You want the
yeah.
block.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Got it. You're right. All right, so I'm going to pass this back like we were before. But I also want to go into the logic category, and I'm going to grab out an if statement. And we're going to check to see if we are below the amount for this particular resource. So let me get the value for that inventory slot. So we've got get value at resource index from auspicious inventory. I'm going to change that to found resource index in a second. Drag out a logic comparison block. Put this in here. I wish we were using beta so I would have our fancy new attach UI. Okay, so we're going to get the value at the found resource index, and we want to check if it is less than the maximum max number of resource. There, and let's test this out real quick. I set it at 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I should be able to break, that's more than 10. And cool, I can't pick up anymore. Perfect.
Maybe if you can't pick it up, the sprite, your rover should say something like a frowny face.
Sure, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Let's add an else to this if statement. We'll grab out the sprite say block. Change this to auspicious, our rover. And it's a robot, so it's going to say hold full. Blizzard. Yeah, I made the berserk a little too long.
Maybe a time limit too. On the
Yeah, we can just say it forever.
So if I press this plus, I can add a time limit, and I'll make it really short. Actually, half a second's fine. Okay, perfect. Now let's go and actually draw our resource bars. So I'm going to create another function similar to this create resource bar, but it's just going to be fill for that particular resource index. So I'm going to go and create a new function. And we're going to call it update resource bar. And it's going to take in a number just like our other one, and that's going to be the resource index. Okay. So we need to store our resource bars somewhere. Doesn't look like we're doing that right now. So I'm going to create another array, and this one's, oh, whoops. And just like all of our other arrays so far, this is just going to be another one that has the same number of slots as the resource array. So we'll call this resource HUD bars, not resource HUD bards. Be different. We're going to set that to an empty array. Just duplicate this. And we're just going to push whatever HUD sprite we're creating in this create resource bar to the end. If I was writing this in JavaScript, this is probably not the way I would write this, but it's fine. Cool. So now we've got an array so that we can keep track of them, and that'll give us the ability to actually look them up and change them inside of this update resource bar. So before I do anything else, let me actually call this function. So we change our inventory right here, and we pass in the resource index. So we should just be able to call it inside of this function, and as long as we always change the inventory using this function, we should be good. So I'm going to call update resource bar, and I will pass in the resource index. And I'm doing it after I set the value so that I don't draw the old value. OK. So I'm going to reuse this HUD sprite variable because it's applicable. And I'll go into the arrays, and I want to get a get value at block. Take the resource index, put it into there, and I want to change this to the resource HUD bars. Cool. So now my HUD sprite is equal to that. And now it's time to do the actual drawing. So do we want our bars to be transparent when they're not filled in, or do we want them to have a background color like white?
I think a background color would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's not so clear what the end state is. And in the beginning, I think it'll just be sort of confusing when they first start emerging.
Yeah. OK, so let's fill it with white, because I think we're not using white for anything. And that should be OK. And then the other thing I'm going to do is, so up here, we were doing this thing where we filled it with the value of the first pixel. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to change it to fill in with white because they're all going to start out as blank. So we've got them right here. Now we've got 3 white bars. Oh, whoops. Undo. OK. So now we need to calculate how many pixels we're going to fill in for this bar. So the way that we're going to do that is with some math. And we can actually use this map block, which is nice. So I'm going to take this map, and what this map does is it takes a value. It takes it from a certain range, so this low value and this high value. So in this case, it's assuming that this value will be between 0 and 1023. And then we're mapping it to this new range, so between 0 and 4. That means that if we were to pass in 0 here, we would get 0 out, If we were to pass in 1023, we would get 4 out because we're mapping it from this big range to this small one. And this is great because we only have 20 pixels, but we don't know how many what the max resource number is going to be. So we can kind of always make sure that our bar is filled in based on those 20 pixels, even if we have more than 20 of the item, if that makes sense. Okay. So I'm going to map the, gonna copy this, and I'm going to change this to auspicious inventory. And I'm going to create a variable called fill width. I could do all of this inline, but it's going to end up being really long. So it's nicer to just break this out into a variable so that's easier to read. OK. So I'm setting the filled width to the auspicious inventory, get value at resource index. And that value can be anywhere between 0 and the max resource count, max resource number, whatever I call that variable. So let me find that real quick. Max number of resource. Put it in here. And for the second one, 0, we're just going to leave the same because we can fill anywhere between 0 and the width of the sprite. So for this high one, I'm going to get the width of the HUD sprite. Let's go into the sprites category, drag out one of these getter ones. Put in the HUD sprites, change it to width, put it right there. Okay, and now we're going to fill with white. So that's going to change everything to white. And then we're going to draw a rectangle that fills in the rest of our sprite with the appropriate amount based off this fill width that we have. So I'm going to go into the images category, which has all of our drawing blocks. And I want to do a draw rectangle, actually fill rectangle. So we've got 2 different rectangle blocks inside of this images category. We have fill rectangle and draw rectangle. Fill will fill up the rectangle. Draw will just draw the outline. So it'll just draw the thing, but it'll leave everything in the middle, whatever it was before. Okay, so let me get a reference to the image of the HUD sprite. And I want to start from the left and the top. So I'm just going to leave this as 0, 0 for x, y. For width, we calculated our fill width. So I'm going to grab that. Oh, whoops. I'll just get it from here. And then for height, we just want to use the height of the sprite. So keep right-clicking on drop-downs today. So I'm going to change this to HUD sprite height. And then for the color, that's the reason I kept this guy around. So I can put it in here now, and it's going to get the value at 0. That's not right. Should be get the value at resource index. And it's getting the color in the top left. OK. Does this look right to everybody? I think this is right. Let's try it out.
Yes.
All right, so let me break some things, and now I'm going to pick these up, and we should see it slowly fill up.
Hey!
Nice. And
Awesome.
so hold full when it filled up.
That sounds
Awesome.
great.
All right, cool. Well, that was my idea. What's next, guys?
We should do something with these resources.
Okay. Break that out.
Yeah.
We have to be able to drop them somewhere or use them. I guess maybe if there's like a central location, like a shop or I don't know, a workshop or something, you can spend resources and get out like a different thing.
I was
Yeah.
going to suggest that, but then I thought you guys would think I was, thinking too much about factories.
Well, we would have thought that, but because Shannon said it. Just kidding, Daryl. There is no thinking too much about factories. So, okay, I like this idea of having a home base. What are some things that we could build? So typically in these games, you're either building like decorative type items, or you're building something to let you access more of a location. or kind of unlocked more abilities. We call it gear gating in video game terms, where like, for example, in like Metroid games, you have to unlock the rocket launcher to get through the red doors, that sort of stuff. So does either one of those sound interesting?
We could start with something like a science lab where you drop it off and it just starts doing science, and then that gets you points for the winning the game.
Okay, that's very factory-y. So I like that kind of as a late game addition, but I think that would assume that we have a kind of a game we have a goal in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if we could do something a little more directed, if that makes sense. We could just make it so that as your points go up, once you hit a certain value, you win, but then it's kind of just like, how can I do this as fast as possible?
You can spend rock points to increase your capacities, maybe.
We
So
can do
if
that.
you get stone, you can make it so you can carry more resources, or water, you could last longer, or something like that.
Okay. How about we have like a gap, and maybe you can build a bridge, and that'll let you go across the gap.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with that, but then I also like the hold increasing idea and the factory idea. We just need to
Maybe you have to get across the bridge to like the location where you can build your factory.
It doesn't have to be a factory, even if I want it to be.
It can
Get
be a
across
science
the bridge
factory.
to the location of the steam vents where you have the crucial bacteria resource you need to make your factory.
Exactly. All right. So we're going to, I think, need to do a fancier tile map to make this stuff kind of interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the size of our tile map, and because I don't want it to be crazy big, I'm just going to like quadruple it. So make it 32 by 32. Cool. And I'm just going to erase everything that's currently there because might as well. So I'm leaving behind the walls. I'll go to wall and we'll do that. Okay. So let's say that I think this is a good opportunity to make a spawn location tile. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. And I'm going to do it the easiest way. I'm just going to make it orange because that'll automatically be invisible against our background color. So orange is going to be where the player spawns. So I'll put them down here, I think. Cool. And I talked about having like a gorge or something. So I'm also going to make a black tile, and this is going to be like the thing that we need to bridge it over. So let's go ahead and do that. Cool. So this is our gorge, and I think I'll move it down a little bit so we have more room to play with up there. All right. So we want to be able to build a bridge, and to do that, I think what I'm going to do is make it so that there is one place where there is a 1 pixel gap, basically. One tile gap between this side and the other side. And I want to make it obvious that the player should go here. So I'm probably going to make the rest of this bigger. And you know what? I'll move this to kind of the... Oh no. Okay, I'll fix that in a second. So we're going to make this a big gorge, and we want to make it clear that there's only one place that you can build the bridge. We can also let them choose where to build the bridge. I don't know. What do you think?
That does sound like some fun code.
Okay, we'll do it like that. So we'll give them a few different locations where it's only like 1 tile across, and they can choose one of those to build it. And we will have some fun coding that.
I was sort of being sarcastic, but also I was sort of envisioning that maybe, when you built the bridge, it would be this expanding ladder that would just traverse until it reached the other side. And that's why I was thinking the code would be pretty tough.
Ooh, no, I like that. We're gonna do that now.
So you're building one part of the bridge at a time?
We're going to be like an extendo bridge.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to automatically kind of go up into the void. But let's make it not too big, or else we won't be able to see the other side. All right, I've spent enough time drawing this, so let's go back and add some more resources. Okay, so I'm going to put some rock over here. And let's say there's some resource that you can only get on this side, and that'll be the algae. Okay. And I'm also going to mark the walls now. It'd be great if I was on beta also, because we have made it much easier to mark walls. This was actually a community contribution, where now you can just use the fill tool, and it will fill based on whatever the wall is, whatever the tile is underneath. I've tried it out. It's super useful. I'm really glad that someone submitted that, whose name I will not say on stream because I do not have their permission. All right. And let's see if I have more luck filling in the red this time as opposed to last time. Oh boy. Okay, there we go.
Yay.
Now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do this. And then I'll erase the extra.
Oh, that really didn't change the color at all. I guess it makes sense.
It's just red, so.
It's the same color. It's just a different shade. Okay. Or opacity.
All right, hopefully I did that right, or we'll start playing and I'll figure it out. And let's also add some water.
Wait, that's not water?
That's
yeah,
not
no,
water.
that's algae. Sorry, I was just trying to make it look nice, and I shouldn't do that. That will make water a scarcer resource. Okay. How are we doing on time?
Halfway.
30 minutes.
Oh, okay. We got time to do stuff.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we also want to have a home base where we have to go build stuff. So for that, I'm just going to draw a little flag. That's good. Throw that in. And this is not a country's flag. This is just a home base flag. So it's going to be one of those triangle ones. Should have started lower down. There we go. Kind of like a golf location. And let me go ahead and, you know what? I won't make that a wall. So you can draw, we'll make it so that if you're overlapping it and you press A, that'll trigger the crafting. All right, cool. Click done. And first things first, I need to make it so that we actually spawn on that orange tile. So that's really easy to do. I just go into scene. I'm going to grab a place on top of random block, which, because we only have one, makes it so it'll always go onto the tile that we're thinking of. So I'm going to change this to auspicious, and I'll change this to orange. And now, cool, starting next to our home base. And let's go over to the red zone and see if I did it right. Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
All right. So let's go ahead and make another post-it comment, and let's come up with some recipes.
10 rock for a bridge.
For the entire bridge?
Yeah, that seems like they're getting off pretty easy.
Well, it's 10 rock for a piece of the bridge, right? And you keep on building.
About 50 rock?
Maybe it could be like, I don't know, it's too complicated. Like some combination of rock and ice makes like a post, and then 2 posts makes a chunk.
Yeah. How about we just do rock for now, and then we do something with the water and the algae together to make like a bioreactor or something.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm just gonna go with that arbitrary. Let's do a 20 for now, since that'll be 2 trips. And I'm going to say that 10 algae plus 10 water equals bioreactor. And I'm thinking this is going to be that in-game thing that you mentioned, Daryl. The bioreactor is going to generate points for you or whatever. Does that sound all right?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. So once we have overlapped with our flag and we press the A button, we're going to trigger the crafting. And so it's kind of hard to do these text UIs inside of blocks. So I'm going to be keeping it pretty simple. I'm going to use the ask blocks inside of the game category. So put that
Which
there.
I don't think we've seen on stream yet. So
Yeah, I don't think we've used them. All right. Okay. So well, let's go into the first. We need to go back into scene. Let me zoom in so that people can actually see. And I want to get an on overlaps block for the tile. So on sprite of kind player overlaps with home base at location. And then I'll put in an if statement. And I'm going to do if, you know what, actually, I think I might reverse this. Because if you hold down A and we're doing it this way, it'll make it so it'll just keep re-triggering, which means we can't use the A button in whatever pops up. So I'm going to get rid of this. And instead, I'm going to bring out an on A button pressed block, which we haven't used yet, so it should be fine. And then in here, I'm going to do if, go into scene, and do the
yeah, tile to left of.
yeah. This tile to left of auspicious is home base, except I don't want left, I want to use center. Okay. So now if I go over there and I press A, nothing happens. Great. Let's go into game and we'll drag out our ask block. So ask lets you ask a yes or no question. So it's pretty nice for when you only have one choice. And we're going to have multiple choices. But for now, what I think we're going to do is, what if we just say store all resources, and it says yes or no, and then we'll have some text explaining what you can do with your resources.
Yeah.
Sound like
Jump out.
Okay. So you might think it's weird that this ask block returns a Boolean. It returns a true or a false. And let's go ahead and just see what happens when this shows up. Okay, so it says store all resources. If I press A, this will return true. And so whatever code I put in here will run. If I say B, this will return false, and whatever code I put in here will run. So just to illustrate that real quick, I should have done this before I started the example. Let me drag out our favorite make stuff happen on the screen block. Change this to auspicious. And we're going to say yes, if it's true, and no if it's false.
Oh, we're still triggering the...
Oh, right. I forgot about this bug.
I haven't actually seen this bug. What's going on? It's not triggering the let up. It just keeps on triggering.
When you press A, it queues an A event, and you can only have one of A event running at a time. So because it's paused in here, it will never get another A and cause it to keep going. So we can't actually do it this fancy way that I was talking about. We're going to have to do it the other way. So sorry for making everyone go in that little digression. Let's go ahead and go back and drag out a scene overlap block. I will mention that this is a bug. It should be fixed. So yeah, look out for that. No ETA. All right, so we're changing our event from on A pressed to on player overlaps with home base. I'm going to get rid of this block and switch it back to the on is A button pressed. And there's one other thing I'm going to do here, which is the other way to deal with that thing I was talking about. And well, actually, you know, let's just do this for now. So if I press A.
Oh, you have to move.
Yeah, that's a bug that I found.
Oh, really?
It only triggers right now during the movements, not when you're standing. So it's different from the semantics of a sprite overlap.
Ah, I see.
You can place a sprite right on top. That's probably the easiest.
You know what?
It's a hack, but...
Do we have the set timeout extension?
That's not an approved one yet.
Timers? PST timers?
No, the one Pelly did.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Joey's right would probably.
An on-game update would also work where we can check if A is pressed and tile below is this tile. That's probably the cleanest.
Okay. Take 3. I'm going to drag out an AND block, and I'm going to put in an if. I'm going to drag out that block we were using before. The tile to whatever is whatever. If A button is pressed and tile to center of auspicious is home base. Okay, so that works. The only problem is, though, if I press A and then I hold down A, this happens.
Why does that happen? Oh, because it refires the event. And then
yeah, because it's running it on every update. So in order to prevent this, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create a variable. It's going to be called onHomeBase. And I'm going to mess with this if statement a little bit. So I'm going to add another if statement. I'm going to move this one to the outer one and leave this one on the inner one. And if tile to center of auspicious is that, then we're going to set and A button is pressed, then we're going to set on home base to true. And then if tile to center of auspicious is not this, so in the else case, we're going to set it to false. And to make this actually work, we are going to say that if we if A button is pressed and we are not on home base, then run this code. And that'll make it so that we don't trigger it more than once, without going off the tile first to reset everything. Cool. So now I can't press it multiple times. I have to go off and go back on, but better. Okay. So let's do the actual storing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate our auspicious inventory, and I'm going to have stored inventory. Just like our auspicious inventory, I'm going to set all of the initial ones to 0. Oh, I should have made them next to each other. Oh, well. And if they say yes, then I want to store all of the resources. So I'll get rid of these say blocks. They've done their purpose. And I'll get rid of the else condition. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into loops. And then do for element, actually, I think I need a index loop. So I need to go from 0 to the length of the inventory -1, which is something we have done a few times on stream. And we want to set the stored inventory to be the stored inventory value plus the current player's inventory value. And then we want to set the player's inventory value to 0 because it has moved out and into the stored. So when I do set value at this, I'm going to go to stored inventory, and we'll drag out a math with a plus. We'll get a couple array gets. So get this one. Change the first one to stored inventory. Change the second one to auspicious inventory. I will say the name auspicious is kind of silly, but it does make the variables very easy to find. So, and then I want to change these zeros to be index. All right, so that is increasing our stored inventory. And now we want to set the auspicious inventory value at the index to be 0. All right, and yeah. How does, hey, Joey, if I print out an array, will it print out the values?
It definitely won't in this one, but I can fix that in beta at least, but not right now.
Okay, then we won't do that. But let's try this out real quick. So I'll get some water. See my inventory filled up. Press A, store our resources there. And I didn't call update resource bar, so it's not redrawing. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Got our function. I'm going to call update resource bar on the current index. Or you know what we could actually do? Use that other function. Change amount in inventory. Oh no, that would be annoying. Yeah, because then I'll have to read the value again. I'm just gonna do it like this. Set it at 0 and call update resource bar on index. All right, let's try that now. Get some stuff in my inventory. Let's see, we got a little blue. stored. Now it's 0, but I guess it draws it as 1. So
Yeah.
okay, cool. Well, we've got that going. So when we get, I'm going to create a new function now, and this is going to be check craftables. And I think that when we get enough of a given resource, we're just going to show a message up on the screen that's going to say, hey, you now have enough to build a bridge. Go to whatever, and then press A. So I'm going to create another. Oh, wait, we don't have return values in non-beta. Oh, no. That's fine.
It could check and say, right? Would that?
Yeah,
Would
but
that
I
work?
want to use this check in 2 places because I also want to use it to actually build the bridge.
You can just have a global that is the return value of this function.
That is true.
In the check, you could see your location, like.
Yep, all good options. Let me go in here. I'm going to check our little guide. Rock is 1. Joey, it's your job to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll do if stored inventory, get value at
1.
is greater than or equal to 20. Then, oh yeah, I can just create a variable. I can just create a variable here. And we'll say call it CanCraft Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll use the splash. To say, you can craft a bridge. And then the extra text will be
Go home.
near
A chasm?
Oh.
chasm.
Oh. Right.
All right, and then we want to call this. So let me go into my functions, call this check craftables, and we'll put it at the end of this. So let's do this real quick. Shouldn't take me too long to get 20.
We should probably change the z-index of the status bars because they're showing up behind the.
They're not. They're actually showing up. Oh, wait, you're right. Yep, you're right. All right, this should be 20. You can craft a bridge. Press
You
A.
got the perfect width.
Yeah, I know. I made that intentionally. That's not true. Okay, so you can come up here, and then when you press A, we want it to do an extendo bridge above. And this is going to be fun to code. I'm looking forward to this.
Mm-hmm.
This would be much easier with the tile map extension, but I have an idea of how to do it, so we'll just deal with the normal stuff.
We have the tile map extension, right?
What?
We're using the tile map extension already.
Oh, what? Yeah, we are.
Or it's in there. I don't actually know if it's being used.
Okay. So we want to handle the actual bridge building now. So it is a good thing that I ended up doing this in an on-game update because now I have to do an on-button, A-button press handler. And I'm going to do if can craft bridge. There we go. Eagle-eyed viewers will realize that this list is alphabetized, so I shouldn't be having as much trouble as I am finding the value.
Who knows where C is in the alphabet? That's a hard one.
If CanCraft Bridge, yeah, they don't call it your AB's what? For nothing. So I want to check the tile to the north, or the top. Oh, whoops, not it, his hitting wall. I want to do tile to top of auspicious is the chasm. Then we are going to actually do our bridge building. So first thing we want to do is we want to take the resources out of our inventory. And we're going to do it like that so that you can actually build multiple bridges if you want to. Why not? So we'll do stored value. Set value at Joey.
Oh, 1.
To stored value, get value at
1.
minus 20. And then we want to actually build the bridge. This is going to be fun. So we're going to create a variable and we're going to call it current location. And we're going to do a first for the
humble while loop.
Yeah, for the stream, and it's going to be using a while loop.
These are dangerous, folks. Be careful.
They are dangerous. So just to illustrate real quick what Daryl meant by that is you can see that right now this says while true. And if you have a block that says while true, this is always true. If you're not doing anything on the inside here, this is just going to run forever. So that can be a problem. If I were to press the A button and I was able to craft a bridge, well, this on A button pressed thing would never stop running, and so I would never get another on A button pressed and my game would freeze. So be careful when you're using while loops, but they are very useful. Okay, so let me take out my set current location, and I'm going to go into the tile maps, and I'm going to get the location of our sprite. So that should be somewhere around here. Yeah, all right. Under location, we have location of my sprite. And I'm going to set that to auspicious. And actually, I don't want this location. I want the location above this, because that's the one we figured out is the chasm. So I'll go back to location. And luckily, we have this location direction of, which is perfect. So if I do location top of location of auspicious, we now have a variable that is pointing to the location of this chasm tile. And we're going to use this while loop to just turn all of those into bridges. And to make that a reality, I'm first going to need to define a, you know what? I don't even need to define it. I can just
dirt bridge, land bridge.
It's going to be a dirt bridge. Okay. So we want to figure out what the tile is at the location. So we've got this one, tile at location is blank. And we want to do while the tile at the current location is chasm, then we want to go into tile map and we want to set the tile at that location. Is that in here? Is that in scene?
That's in scene, yeah.
So we want to set to be dirt at that location. I was using this as my spawn point, but because we're not reloading the tile map, I can just reuse it here too. You know what? Actually, I just set it to transparent. Yeah, because it's orange in the background, so that's fine.
Right.
And we want to do it at this current location. Then we want to drag out a, oh, not this. We want to use a set wall at. We want to do set wall off also at current location. And then finally, this is another be careful with while loops thing. We want to change what our current location is, otherwise this will just keep going. Or it'll only go once, actually. And we're going to set the current location to the location top of current location. All right, let's break this out a bit. So we're going to say while the current location is a chasm tile, we're going to get rid of the chasm, turn off the wall, and then change the location we're looking at to be the location above our current one. So that means for each version of the loop, it's going to move up by 1 and just keep going. And now let's test this out. I think it should be good to go.
For now, when we get it, we'll be able to make infinite bridges too.
What?
Well, we're decreasing the inventory.
Yeah, no, I decreased the inventory.
Yeah, but we never recheck it.
Oh.
We don't have anything that turns CanCraft Bridge off.
All
But
right.
I like it this way. We can test it.
No, you should have just said that earlier, Joey.
But we also don't know, because what if they catch 40? We should have to have it as part of the. What if they get 40 and then they try and build 2 bridges at once?
They can't build 2 at once. Not allowed. Okay, so now I'm setting CanCraft Bridge to false, and I'm calling check craftables again.
Oh,
so if you have a bunch of rock, they'll get another message, but whatever. All right, breaking rock all the live long day. Go ahead and store that, get some more. And for debug purposes, I will make this lower in a second. You can craft a bridge. Press A near chasm. Through the chasm, press A.
Hey.
Ooh, got a bridge. We tried making another.
Awesome.
And
Whoa.
it's letting me for some reason.
Wait, but
I'm pretty sure it's not actually letting me build a bridge. It's breaking it like it's a resource.
Yeah.
So I need to go back to where we break resources. And yeah, right here. So we have on sprite of kind player hits wall. So we're gonna have to fix this check real quick. And that's easy enough to do. We're going to grab out a 4.
could we just check call break tile in direction, or in there do the check? That'd be easier.
Yeah. If tile location is a wall and it's not a
Right.
chasm.
Okay. All right. If tile at location of wall is resource tile get value at index, but we actually want to change this one up here. If tile at location of wall is wall, and then we want to also make sure that it is not a chasm.
I think that's in the base. Oh no.
No,
It's yeah, it was right under the tiles there.
All right. I can no longer break through the chasm, but I can break through here. Okay, cool. Well, we've run out of time, but I think we made a lot of progress today, and we're pretty close to having a game that's kind of fun. I actually do like the loop of just going around, picking up resources, and coming back. What do you guys think? Have we done enough to kind of illustrate the concept that we were going for in inventory, or do you want to come back and keep working on this game? See a show of hands.
I think we've got the inventory done.
So are we going to call this game finished?
I wouldn't say it's finished, but left as an exercise to the reader.
Okay. So we'll post this game up onto the forum with everything that's gone in so far. If someone wants to take this and make it into a cool finished game, that would be awesome. But for now, we need to come up with a name. So let me go ahead and change this to, this isn't 28th, this is 29th. Oh, whoops.
Kind of like our name.
Want to keep it Auspicious Space Algae?
It's a good name.
It is pretty good.
Or something involving bridge. Maybe, he's bridging the species between robot and algae.
What is the Latin name for robot?
The Latin name for robot?
It's bridging the species between.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just leave it as Auspicious Space Algae for now. And if you do come up with a good bridge pun, I will put it in the forum post. So, but we're out of time for now. So come back tomorrow. We'll be starting a new game, trying to do something new. I know we got some requests in the forum, so we'll probably take a look at those and see if that's something good to cover. But for now, I'm Richard, at Richard on the forum.
I'm Shannon, at Shakao on the forum.
I'm Joey, at JWonderl on the forum.
And I'm Daryl, at Darzoo on the forum.
And thanks for joining us, everybody.